I'm Ruth Allen, Curator of Greek and Roman Art at the Michael Tsoukalos Museum at Emory University in Atlanta. And today I'm going to share two objects from the collection with you that give us some insight into the classical antecedents for the system of democratic government that we enjoy here in the United States. Because, of course, when the founding fathers of the United States were considering what system of government they wanted to create following the Declaration of Independence from Britain, they took inspiration from the classical models of democratic Athens and republican Rome. And the system of government that they devised, which holds as its central tenet that ultimate power should rest with the people, is in large part the same system that we follow in the United States today. But what did the ancient examples that inspired modern American democracy actually look like? So our word democracy derives from the ancient Greek word demokratia, which itself is formed from two Greek words, the word for power or rule, kratos, and the word for people, demos. So we can translate it literally as the rule of the people, as opposed to, for example, an aristocracy, which describes the rule of the elite, or literally the rule of the best. The most developed and certainly the most famous system of direct democratic government from the ancient world is that established in the city-state of Athens in the late 6th century BC, following the overthrow of the ruling tyrants of that city, and which lasted to the final decades of the 4th century BCE. In this system, all eligible citizens could participate directly in government, joining debate in the assembly and voting on any and all decisions, from financial management to initiating new legislature to making decisions in political trials and on military action. The assembly could also vote to exile from Athens any citizen who had become too powerful and too self-serving, and whose self-promotion therefore threatened the good of the city. In Athens, active engagement in democracy was considered a responsibility as well as a right. Athenian historian Thucydides tells us that for the Athenians, a citizen who did not partake in politics was not only self-interested, but useless. This sentiment is reflected and reinforced in the visual culture as well, where we see increased representations of Athenian citizens engaged actively in the business of democracy. So, for example, on this red figure Pelike, with two Athenian youths, each wearing a hymation, this kind of large mantle or cloak wrapped around their body, and holding a distinctive walking stick, both attributes that mark them out as Athenian citizens, and they're shown standing deep in conversation. This vessel would have been used at the symposium, an aristocratic all-male party where attendees would have feasted and discussed important issues of the day, including politics. And such imagery, therefore, reinforced what an ideal citizen looked like to its citizen viewers. Of course, it's important to note that in classical Athens, only free adult male citizens were eligible to vote in the assembly, meaning that all women, foreign residents, and the vast enslaved population could not participate in government and politics. Of course, this was also true in the United States into the 20th century, and it was true in Rome. Like Athens, Rome overthrew its monarchy in the late 6th century BCE, but replaced it with a republican government, a form of representative democracy in which citizens, again freeborn adult men, elected officials to represent their needs in a series of assemblies. Perhaps the most powerful political body was the Senate, which likely began as an advisory board to governing magistrates, but grew over time in size and power. Membership to the Senate was limited to Rome's aristocratic class, the patricians, and came with certain privileges, such as the right to wear a toga with a wide purple stripe made from an expensive dye, a gold ring, special shoes, and the best seats at public festivals and games. This statue of a man that's just over life-size would have had an individualized portrait head and an inscribed base that would have told us who this man was when it was originally set up. But it nevertheless still characterizes its subject by the clothes that it wears as a magistrate and perhaps even as a senator. So he wears a toga and a ring on the third finger of his left hand, which also holds a scroll indicating that he is a man at business, and a box containing more scrolls rests at his feet. This statue would have been displayed publicly, demonstrating how holding political office in Rome was a marker of status, of influence, and of wealth. And it also shows how participation in politics could shape the very appearance and fabric of the city of Rome, as well as the lives of its inhabitants. So what I think these objects show in what this brief examination of the forms of government in Athens and Rome is that in both of these places, voting was considered a right as well as an important responsibility. But voting could also be quite exclusionary, with limits on who could vote and who could be elected. In democracies and in republics, your vote is your voice. And in the United States, many people had to fight for the right to vote and the right for their voices to be represented in their government, regardless of race, of gender, of religion, education, or physical ability, resulting in 4 constitutional amendments and a number of acts created to protect voting rights. Like the ancient Romans and Athenians, in the United States, we vote because it is our opportunity to participate in the political process and to have our voices heard.